So hi guys, thank you for having me tonight. I'm very happy and excited to be here. It's quite funny because I had a portfolio review with two times Elliott a couple years ago, um, and to me this feels a bit like a sort of a return, uh, which was refund like student portfolio reviews.
Who did you do it with?
I did it with Nono and Jenny, I believe, or maybe it was Arian. Maybe I don't remember. I'm getting people confused.
Oh, Andrin.
Andre? Okay.
Yeah.
I know Jenny was there for sure because that's where I met Jenny for the first time, and she gave me like a portfolio review. Now we're great friends, and I'm back here for a talk. So great.
Does Jenny get royalties in your work now for all the great
Yeah. Yes. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about me and who I am, who I was, who I am now, whatever. My university journey, just a little bit towards the end, because I think it ties up a little bit to what I do today. Obviously, my work experience and the own practice that I've recently started. So I'm from Sicily. I love this map because it's an old map of Sicily, which doesn't really reflect the proportions of the actual island. It's a bit wonky and stuff, and at the same time, it looks like a map from like Elden Ring or something like that, with Mount Etna looking scary like that. But when you actually are in Sicily, it looks like that, and it does really look like that in real life. Being there in summer is beautiful. Living there in winter, not the best, but it has its pros and cons. But um, I have been a crazy tech nerd since the beginning, and asked my mom a couple of years ago. Well, she sent me these pictures a couple of years ago, and I had to ask her back to just get them back. They've been upscaled with the AI a while ago, so you can kind of see that they're a little bit wonky, but who cares? I don't know what I was doing also on the floor in the shopping mall, drawing images, but I guess when creativity calls, you can't know. Just so apart, but also there is my side of nerd and tech nerd and video games that will come through in later in the presentation. So I studied ancient Greek and Latin, which is completely the opposite of what I do now. It was a grammar school. It was very technical. That's how I was supposed to look like that while studying it, but I was more like that. I was really bad at it. But there was video games and tech that was like really big into my life, and I think that was sort of like escapism for me. And like while preparing this presentation, by the way, I love this intro of Xbox just for the 3D graphics. Obviously, we can actually have a look at it again. While I was presenting this presentation, I was preparing it. I noticed some patterns that have been there since the beginning, and I've always been into tech, but I was into tech because of graphics, and I've developed this like obsession for like software updates and visual changes. And I think to me what was important is that I was very excited to see like the updates and the progress. So what was before, what is improved, and it is a bit like that if you think about rebrand as well. So that was like my sort of like nerd obsession when I was younger, which actually has like moved on later in my life. I used to own a website, which is pretty much how I got into design. So I used to own a website. This is like what's it called? Internet Archive. The website doesn't exist anymore, but I used to do like reviews of like phone and tech, and this is still online on YouTube. Please don't go and search it. But it's gonna be like my pre-puberty voice reviewing phones, and it was quite fun because I don't know how, but I used to have people writing articles for me, and people like companies would send me like phones to review, and there was like this little business going on, and I was like 16 years old, 15 years old. I wasn't even like past 18, but that's pretty much how I go into like design. So I was like creating my own graphics for my own website. And now we do a little bit of a temporary shift, otherwise we're never going to finish. And I decided I wanted to do graphic design, and I never studied design before, so I made a portfolio while applying for Ravensbourne, which is the university I went to. This was the portfolio. It's quite old school. I don't know why there's an image behind those graphics, but I found it in my wardrobe, and I took a picture for you guys so you guys can see that. I'm not going to show you inside, obviously. And then I flew to London. This is the uni I went to. Ravensbourne, just right in front of the O2 Arena. I owe them a lot. I did really enjoy my time in there, and I did learn quite a lot. And it ranges from like more traditional graphic design. For example, this was a book that was like about chopsticks, very random, and it was binded like a chopstick. And it was about this like research that a lot of like there was such a crazy waste when it comes to chopstick. This is actually not like that anymore because there's been rules by Greenpeace and stuff like that. But this was like a project I did there, and then I got into motion while I was a uni. That's pretty much how everything started for me. It was actually my first piece of motion, which is interesting, and how motion. What unlocked in my brain after Effect is that how we can talk about how we can like really insert another narrative within something like static, pretty much. So like what sort of like added value we can add to it. And this is how I was like trying to like I was still doing like editorial, but also still playing with motion. This stuff was like also printed. I'm not gonna go into obviously all these projects, but there's like uni stuff that were really fun and experimental. And in the meantime, I was still experimenting. I learned some 3D software, 2D software. I was just going all in with it, and still sharing on Instagram, and it was getting me some jobs sometimes. With okay, this is good. I guess I can do something with it. And then it comes the third year of university, and I start experimenting with AI. And from uni is like, I think from uni I have like all the funnier projects. They're obviously probably not the most commercial one, but it's the one I had the most fun with. And in this project, I was like looking into this 1,000 character and how I was able to interpolate all of the stuff. I basically trained my own model. This is back in 2019, I believe. So it's a while ago. AI was not as pretty as it is and perfect as it is now, but I think there was something beautiful in it. And while I was working on this project and also writing my dissertation AI, we had to do a final major project, and I kind of tied two things together. I was basically COVID just hit, and my idea was to create like a photo book. And what I did is that I basically took images that belonged to my family, and it was like a 20 spans, 20 years of pictures. And the actual last picture was me being born. I don't know why they stopped taking pictures after that. I'm just joking. They just shifted into digital cameras. But there's like 20 years of these pictures, and they basically mashed them up all together. And this is us in the latent space. And I was like trying to arrange them in a way that was interesting. And I basically come up with this website, just because we couldn't do anything physical at the time because of COVID. So I basically came up with this website where I was trying to like collect these images together and trying to give them a little bit of a sense. I'm just gonna skip through them. I mean, they're a bit freakish, they're a bit scary, but I think there is also something beautiful in it. Just because I think it's a bit, I see this a bit as a playground for my own imagination and what I can see in it. And you know, sometimes I can see some beautiful sunsets, or sometimes I can see some fog, or I can see fields and stuff like that. And I'm the only one who knows how the original images that I fed into the machine look like. And I can tell you there is some similarities, but yes, this is just one of the fun projects I worked on while at uni. Another fun project, and you'll probably see this sort of like qualities that this project have. They're very experimental, and I would say like maybe I let the aesthetic of the tool that I'm using define how that looks like. And you will see these qualities across the entire portfolio, which is because I think that's a bit what some of my mantra is a bit like that. So I try to learn something new from each project. And one other project from uni was this modular typography system. So basically, it was a project where I was like working with like modular music, modular synths, and modular typefaces, and I didn't figure out how to make it work yet. I knew I wanted to do a modular typeface, but I was like, how can I make this tied up together? So I was like playing around in After Effects, and let me make this a little bit less loud. I was playing around in After Effects, and I managed to link a grid with sound, and basically, I was like, okay, that could be what makes my modular typeface do something special that is a bit more different. So I was looking into Joran Scroffer as a typographer, and I started doing a little bit of mental exercises and research. Came back to the most basic grid, applied the most basic shape, and how that grid could interact when moved. And I came up with those shapes, did a lot of tests, and how those shapes could move. So this is a very early test. I did a lot of tests, quite a lot of them, came up with this crazy system, and this was the final typefaces that I worked on. It's just on Glyph, but what's interesting is that I also, worked on a website which is actually usable, so you can like design your own letter. So it's a bit like a tool. So let's pretend I'm making an A. Hopefully I remember how it was done. I'm probably doing something that I've never done before. Okay. Yeah, the A was a bit like that. But then you can attach the microphone to it, and it kind of respond to my voice and the sound. Obviously, it's not perfect. I usually clap my hands because it's a bit more responsive, but that's how the concept was proven. And you can also randomize it. It's just basically a basic grid with some basic like modules, and this is pretty much what I was having fun with while I was at uni. And this was not, I believe this was my final major project. Yes. Again, this is how people would use it. It was quite fun. I think what was quite fun to me was to give the tool to other people and see what they would do with it. I think I do always love the interaction between the designer and the user, and this is just some ways it was applied. So after uni, I straight went into Monotype because I actually had the chance to do an internship with them, which was very interesting. I tried to learn the most as I could while I was in there. Did learn some type design, learn how to work more in a team. Worked on some designs that now are still being used, like this is their podcast and stuff like that. I tried to infuse a little bit more of like life and modernity within what was at the time Monotype, and this is more the stuff I was trying to do. I was making this like cute representation of like happy holidays with each typeface was like each language, and I think that was pretty nice. And also some like other font release. I was working on some font release. Some of those were quite big as well. Worked on the Vaticanal variable. It's quite interesting because at the time there wasn't a design lead, so it was me as an intern, the creative director, and a marketing assistant. But it was quite fun because there wasn't much structure around it at the time, but I basically tried to do the most I could and learn the most I could. And I feel like I left that place with a lot more stronger chokehold on typography. I then moved at Conor Campbell. I couldn't find a really nice pictures of him because it's very hard to take pictures of him. So I have a picture of him that's taking a picture of me. This is me watching. Say it again.
I didn't say anything. I think we were laughing.
Oh yeah, yes. This is me looking at Apple keynotes, and I mean, I'm happy to say that nothing has changed. I still sit religiously for every Apple keynote. And, this is again my obsession with like Apple and like software updates and stuff like that. So nothing has really changed. And while I was at Cornell, I really got to like experiment a lot. I would say is one of the best like working experience I had, and also in terms of relationship that I had with Connor. It was very quite freeing, and it was quite freeing and expressive. What we were allowed to do, we just had to like play around and see what sticks. Um, I'm just gonna play now some like slides. I don't want to talk about each project, obviously, but like as you can see, I could experiment with like 3D and 2D, and the range of clients was quite broad, and it was just me and Connor at the time. It was just me and Connor at the time, and when the workflow was just divided in 50-50, so there was a really like a big range of like learning. And also this is some stuff that I developed before going at Connor, and you probably see something very similar early on my slides with the AI images, but I was learning how using the same technique for this project, so how to bring something that an experiment that was done on university for a commercial project. This is actually unreleased stuff, but again, mixing between 2D and 3D was best of. Let's turn the volume a little down. This is when I was at Con, I had the pleasure to work on at the Sundance Festival 2022, which was really, really such a great project that I still like look up today. Which obviously just me and him. So 50 of the work was done by me, 50% of the work is done by him. Uh, the editing is really, really good, and this is just a mixture of 2D graphics and 3D graphics. What's very interesting about this, that many people don't know, is that everything has been pretty much created in Cinema 3D. So there is not much After Effects involved in it. There is some scenes that are After Effects, and the editing obviously is After Effects, but pretty much everything like stuff like that is made on the Cinema 3D. And it was quite interesting to just get that look. This is obviously inspired by, at least for me, it was inspired from Gold, but also from like jazz posters of the 60s. Again, passing through all this work, there's a lot of 2D involved in it, and a lot of like 2D experimentation. Everything was like experimentation first. Also, sometimes I did get to do some 2D, which I'm always happy to do because obviously I trained as a graphic designer, and I practice most of my projects are motion project, but when I get to 2D, is also always quite fun. And stuff that we did for Queen of the Universe, which was a drag queen show, if I'm not wrong, by Paramount. So how the design system of the lower thirds, and it was all about space and aliens and galaxies, so why they had the shapes, and how all that system then turned into like 2D graphics. I'm very proud of this project. I really loved it, and how then goes into into like motion. And talking about 3D, going back to another very project was this one we did for Jamie XX, which had a really crazy deadline. It was just 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, I had to like churn up so much stuff because they wanted the lookup to be like animated in, I believe it was like 18 different languages. So there was this process of just like doing without thinking, which I think was very, very freeing and very, very creative. So we just basically had to translate Let's Do Again in 18 different languages, every time with a different language, every time with a different style, all 3D techniques. We also got to use like VRs, which was very fun. The clouds are made with VRs and stuff like that. And okay, so this is another project where we actually had to involve 2D and 3D together. This is for Elliott, and it was like a video that we had to create to show their approach to problems. I had so many problems working on this because it was so hard, but I think I developed a good approach to problems as well while working on this project. And I used to do all this 3D stuff at Con. I was trying to push it because at the time I wasn't really good at it, and I was basically trying to learn something new, so I will get something out of a project. Even if sometimes the project is not the most exciting, I try to like do something new so I can get something out of it. This is just some never seen really early exploration for this a festival that was being hosted by Klarna, and Connor was like doing. We were working in different directions, and Connor was doing something with these like very chunky shapes that he has drawn himself, and I would just blow them up in 3D and see how they look. And when you blow them up, they look very different. But what about we play with some lighting? All this lighting that you see in this letter, this duotone, was all like actually parametric. I wrote this little code that was like would allow me to just like shift the light and make it duotone. So it's not done after, it was actually in Cinema 3D by default. That's why you get all these like very cool details. And how then the system could have been applied to the full branding. Other fun projects was for Apple Music, where we had to like animate this like long list of like albums. And there's a lot of tests of this that can be seen on my website, but this is again a very fun project where we really had to like craft everything to perfection, just because there's Apple and they want it to be perfect. Also, something interesting about the work that we were doing is that how we were able to, while working still in motion, make an impact in more traditional graphic design, in a sense that, for example, for this project, we developed the visual treatment that this letter and this phone had, which then later got printed on. So from something digital, we went into something physical, which I really, really love. And I mean, the result is really insane. And this is just some shot of like this visual treatment we developed across the world. And it's very, very, very nice to see them. And this project is by Studio Lorry, and they did a really great job with that. Also, it was really fun to see it in real life. Again, I'm just gonna flick through it. This is some stuff we did for Apple Music. They launched the Apple AirPods, and it was really fun because we were basically creating all the expressive typography or kinetic typography. And I remember pitching this idea of having this like long-lasting battery. In the sound it says long-lasting battery life, I believe. So we had like this type going around the woman. They actually then later remove it in the final cut, because they really are really good at dumbing things down and making them simpler to understand. They have like a simple version of this. But I'm in love with the crazy version of it. I'm all about crazy design and just being very bold. But that was really fun to work on. And again, this is a fun mix between 2D graphics and 3D. This is all Cinema 3D, and we had basically to visualize the idea of special audio just by putting this letters floating around the singer. Oh, oops, sorry. Another project, me trying to flex my muscles in 3D, start learning something new. This was for Mesh. Again, Studio Lorry was the creative director. We had to animate this like 3 pills. I believe it was like a crypto service, and we had to animate these pills. Obviously, there's always a brief behind, but each pill has a different technique. So I get to learn like mesh design, making pillows that then got turned into this like plastic, but then there was like some liquidy, some coral growing, and each time it was always a different technique. It's very, very fun times. And this is actually never been out. This was like a live growing particle. It was very, very fun. I don't know why I didn't go for it, but I wanted to like sort of like showcase like the beginning of life. So there was like this, like, it's a bit also Zen vibe. So they had this like rocks stacking on each other, and then they had this like roots going around the glass. It was very fun, this one. Oh, same slide repeated. That's bad. Other stuff that we did for Connor was working a lot of this like Apple playlist musics, and I believe this was one of my favorite projects. We got to design around 15 of those, and I remember taking the lead on many of this, or design wise. And it would be so funny because Connor would just like give me all the space I needed for it, and it would just it would really like push me and endorse me to do some crazy stuff. And also, obviously, he would work on it as well, and we would mix our two styles together, and it was so fun. I've selected a couple of those that are gonna showcase you in here. But the other ones are actually live. You can just search them on Apple Music and you'll see the videos of stuff. But as you see in the slides, the technique, even though they all come from the same designers, the techniques are very, very variegated. There's some 3D, there's some heavy 2D, there's just 2D graphics. Also, there's some type design involved, all guitars and Azerbaijan. I probably butchered that, shouldn't say that, but all guitars and that one is a custom type. Viva la Rai is custom type. Because I sometimes have fun also, obviously, designing some type myself. This is just a slide of me designing it. Viva la Rai actually was inspired by this like signage that I saw while being on maps. And I was like, oh, those shapes are quite nice. Obviously mixed with other stuff, and I came up with this like very cute typography. But also there will be some very heavy 3D in it. Models are by Jordan Carter, which is a brilliant 3D modeler. And I would just take these models and just bring life to it and trying to create some interesting compositions. The best happened with this playlist called Shaylat, which is really, really, really good. Really good music as well. But for example, this was very fun because it was like a procedural desert. So in a way, I could control the position of like the dunes, and obviously by adding a sun, I was able to then, and rotating this thing called HDRI, I was able to like create all different times of the day. The actual final playlist looks like this. We had to bring it in space at one point, but yeah, this is the Apple playlist in this final form. We also for another. Oh, I'm just realized I'm talking about every project, but yeah, I would just go through this very quickly again. But this is some just stuff with it for Nike, Mari. Yeah, let me take this out. Another very fun project was this for U2 called Pride. That basically was the release of the song, and we had to like sort of reinvent almost the real because the video was like black and white and then the visualizer. And what we did was taking some elements from the original video and like sort of like reinventing them. So we removed them from the original video, removed the background, put them inside generative software, and then put this graphics over it, obviously. So there will be like obviously the lyrics. There will be like maybe the snake was like on a graffiti, and it will take it from there. But this, for example, was the guitarist, which in the video is obviously playing the guitar, but we just like remove the background and then create using the same shape of that will be left after we remove the background. Everything was done using like generative software, so AI. But then we would put it to Touch Designer and just like bring life to it, and it would just create this like really beautiful low-cups. There was a very beautiful moment that I think Bono is like jumping from the stage and is doing this iconic moves, and that looked really, really good once it was removed from the video. And the video originally was actually black and white, so we tried to like infuse this color just to really make it stand out. Another fun project was this one, which was actually for Apple, for the presentation of, they were presenting like a new Mac, I believe, and they had to like showcase how powerful it was. So this was created on a Mac, and again, this is really me happy watching it live at the live action at the show at the keynote. It was very fun to see that. See your work actually at the keynote. That was a very nice moment. Another nice project was one of the last projects I worked at Connor was actually this one called Capsule 1. In collaboration with Studio Hato, where basically we were inspired by the letters and the lens and the movement that you do to take pictures. Capture One is photographic, is a software for photo editing, and we basically inspired by that, and the movement that you do, zooming in, zooming out, sharpening, or what you do also when are using the software. The software presents like this UI where you can like basically select in between a lot of images to come up with it. So we come up with this like very cool system where we just show these pictures all in going from smaller to bigger. Obviously, this is just like proof of concept. The final ones, I have all different pictures and they're like very well produced. Then I landed at Porto Rocha for a year, which was incredibly fun. This was I only met them like once. We basically were like in upstate New York for a studio trip, and I brought over some sweets from Sicily. That's them enjoying the sweets from Sicily, and also me cooking some food later on in the week, and it was great. Such a beautiful group of people. I worked with them for a year, I believe, and not much of the work that I've done with them is out yet, sadly. There's only one that is out at this church. There was a project that I really wanted to put in, but I guess I have to wait because I cannot show it. But this was a like church. It's a editing house. It's the editing house by this woman called Maya Ferris, if I'm not wrong. And she's quite big in the industry because, as you see in the images that you see there, there's a lot of very famous like music videos. That is like Megan Thee Stallion, Rosalia, or Rosalia. There's Travis Scott, so it's quite big. And she came up with this. They had to like revamp the logo and create like a proper identity. And the logo it was very similar, but it was a bit more junky, and like it wasn't as pretty as this is. So we had to like redesign the logo and come up with this system. The logo already had this sort of like perspective, was a bit like looking at church from the bottom to the top. So we really, really dived into it, and we added this crazy perspective game to the logo. And then this is the website we designed for it. This is just like a quick editing of how the website works. I'm obviously not responsible for the website design, but I just wanted to show you like a little bit of a bigger, broad statement of the branding, and that was a really, really fun project with them. They're really a masters at branding. They're very incredible. And now we go into a bit my own practice. I hope I'm in time. It's not much, but basically beside all of the stuff that you guys seen so far, I've also run my own practice, and now I've actually gone full-time freelancer. And just because I believe I really miss doing like graphic design, and I want to implement what I do with motion and make it a little bit more graphic if I can. And while working for other people, I would really be always pretty much busy doing motion. And obviously as a freelancer, I have a bit more time for myself, and I can like focus on that a bit more and just pretty much start my own practice. And I also have a collective that I run with other two friends of mine, Nikita Idzev and Imran Khan, called Forum, which is gonna go out at one point. But this is some of this work is work that I've produced while being with them. This is just like a design that we did for loss management series in collaboration with this company called Impossible Object, which you will see very soon. And it was really fun because we get to work with photographers, and we got to work with graphic designers. And that was really, really the beginning of our collaborations together. And this is the classic skate design. It was fun to work with, but it really like bonded us, and we decided we wanted to work together. And later on, we rebranded Impossible Object, which is this agency that pretty much helps a brand established in Europe. Originally, the lookup was like that. Now you see it like this because they dropped the Korean. Originally, they were, I think with the Korean looks a lot cooler, obviously, but originally they were only dealing with Korean brands, so helping them come from Korea to Europe. But now they are a bit more broad, so they dropped the Korean. But this is branding. When we work with them, we got to actually design the system, the entire graphics, but also the website. We actually got to design the website and code the website. not, we didn't code the website, sorry. The website was coded by Too Much, which was really, really fun. So again, trying to tap into what I learned at uni about graphic design and just do a bit more this branding project. This is just some slides that show how the website works. It was very fun. Every time that you refresh it, has a different, the images appear in different places, and we basically tried to like, well, obviously first of it, mock up in motion, and then trying to bring into real life. So how we can like, we can bring this sort of like thoughts that we have only when working in motion into like real life usages. This is, I believe this is just like infinite scrolling. Another project I worked with was Good Loop. This was in collaboration with Studio Hato, but as a freelancer, where this hyphen is really acting as a medium in between like what pretty much Good Loop is, which is ads and charities. So what you do is you watch the ad, you unlock a donation, and then you can like invest that donation for a charity, which is incredibly great. And at the same time, this hyphen was like shifting into all these like different aspect ratios, and these aspect ratios are like all the mediums that they work in. So there's Instagram, TV, or like banners on website and all this stuff. Another really fun project I worked on, a very stressful project that I worked on while I was on as a freelancer with my friend Nick. I brought him in as a collaborator, but this is a project actually for Google DeepMind, which is was incredibly prestigious. In collaboration with Back and Back, we basically had to visualize two very different concepts in AI, such as quantum computing and multimodality, which you will see later on. And they're quite complex. I still think that if you don't have like a minimum of like knowledge, it's quite hard to understand. But there is obviously this extremely complex stuff that they did when it's about talking about AI, and they wanted them to not look as scary. So we had to like, and also to not spread misinformation about AI. And this is just talking about these two concepts. I mean, you probably, if you're interested, you probably can look at it later on. Oops. This is some tests that we did originally, and we thought they were very beautiful, so that we repurposed them for our portfolio. Also, something interesting about the Google DeepMind stuff is that all these images and all these videos that we created with them, they are free to use and to download from like website like Unsplash and stuff like that. So they are produced to just be free to use. And it's fun because if you go and check them, you can see how many times they've been downloaded, and now people are starting to use them, and it's really great to see them out there. This time, so, I hate the volume. This time I've been just like really trying to work out my skills in all different ways, whatever that looks like. Motion, 3D, 2D. I've been doing this in the background. This is just some like random test that I've been doing along the years, and how I think was interesting. Now we get into the zone where how motion then goes into like the real world. This was some experimentation I did for Spotify, which about this like glitchy fire, and then they actually we work on the branding for the code as a freelancer, and they actually then at one point got printed into this wall, which was crazy. They didn't even tell me about it. I saw it from some random Instagram post, and I actually got the video of it. So how that then later on went into it. This is some stuff, some tests I did for Devalan, which is film production company with model designers up in Manchester, and we actually passed it through this CTR TV, which gave us this very beautiful texture. And again, I really love to putting something digital into something like organic, like a CCTV. If you think about it, it's like something from the past, and I just love that relationship, and it brings a lot of very nice memories to me. I also looked at Bridget Riley's art. Sorry, I had a little bit of a prick moment in my head, Bridges Riley art, and I was really interested into it. So I kind of sort of trying to recreate my own version of it, and then later influenced it in this piece that was designed with a friend of mine, Deljon Brown. We made this like shirt, and we sort of like you created this patches in the back inspired by this piece that I made, and this is actually one of my favorite shirt now. And I just love that we created that crazy contrast just by shifting the um, the textiles. So I've got an interest in pretty much all the like different sides of design, really, and how we can like really mix these two mediums together. This is a typeface that I designed during this workshop called Sad Workshop with Alberto Guerra. In Italy, it was during COVID. We were very bored. But we did this typeface, which was actually a flexible typeface, very simple. There was this counters opening and closing. We didn't have much time. This was actually inspired by these pieces. I don't remember now the name of the artist or the company that produced them, but it was like this piece of furniture, which is really cool. That was like, you can go from really small or you can go really big. You just buy the piece and you can see some sort of inspiration was taken there, and then actually made it into a new aesthetic. Yeah, that's the motion reel. And I recently worked on my new website, which I obviously treated as my own project pretty much because it was the only thing I had done for a month. This was I worked on it with APN Works, which also coded it. It was great. Had such a great time working on it, and it really helped me to like understand what I like as a designer and how I see myself. And it was pretty much like a retrospective journey within myself. We have like the project in that, and there's gonna be like there's like a personal side on this on the desktop is on the right, but on mobile it's just like button, and I'm just featuring like stuff that I've been into it recently. So it's like friends heart or stuff that I'm into it. And there's also a lab on the desktop mobile of it, where you can just drag things around, so you can sort of create like your own mood board, and you can just like, I don't know, it's a bit more a playful way to show just stuff that I do that I like. I think they're cool, and they're just there to be play around with. Really, there's just stuff that never really made into full final projects. And there's something really beautiful that I like in the mobile version of it, apart from like obviously the normal showcase projects that they look a little bit more standardy. There is this like mode that when you click on information, it comes up, you'll see in a second, that kind of blurs the content behind. And I think it just adds another layer to what the work is there. and it works really beautiful, this animation by Elliott. And yeah, I just think it makes it look really, really, really cute. And there's also an Easter egg in when you go to the page 404. And yeah, regarding some final points, just to wrap up everything, is, as I've been saying through the entire presentation, is that I try to learn something new from each project. Whatever that is, like a technical skill or organization skill or conceptual thinking, critical thinking, whatever that is, always trying to like find something that I can take home from it. And as that says it plainly, curiosity is what drives me. I like to pretty much connect the dots and really, like, the website, my final website, has a lot of references from like all the internet and things that I was fascinated by when I was a kid. So I always trying to like connect the dots and pretty much plan ahead all the work that you want to do and what you want to achieve, and really find your niche. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do right now, with all its problematics, but it is also a very exciting journey. So that was it. That was me. So
I just don't know where to start. There's too much work to talk about.
maybe we just stare at each other in silence.
Yeah, maybe I'll kick off with a question. I was just thinking, like, because obviously you were saying about the two different places you worked at, which was like Connor's studio, which you were there for a while, and then sort of that period of time you worked at Porto Rocha.
Yeah.
What was the experience like between the two? Like, was there comparables, or was there things that are completely different? What was that kind of dynamic like between two?
Yeah, it was worlds apart. But in not in a negative sense, obviously. Neither they're just two completely different experiences. I think with Connor was a lot more of a boutique sort of vibe, where I think it's very valuable to have that at your career, in your career, or at least at the beginning of your career. It's really, really great to have an experience where, I mean, in both cases, I think you need to have both extremes, in my opinion. Like with Connor, you really build that very personal relationship with a person, and again, being two of us, there will be like a great back and forward of ideas, and there's not many hoops that you gotta jump through in a way, compared to being in a bigger place where I've learned so much about being organized. I feel like I will carry that forever. Project managers, great. And but there is obviously a lot more people that you gotta like convince of your work, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but they're very different experiences. So I don't think I can compare one to another one. They both left me with a very, very big like bag full of like knowledge and like lesson learned, pretty much. But yeah, very, very different. But I suggest everybody should have like that experience, but I think eventually you will probably want to come back to like a smaller reality. That's why I've gone freelance. So the smallest ever, just me in my room.
Did you just out of interest, when you worked, obviously you're working with Connor out of his studio, right? You're working in Mare Street.
Yes, correct.
And then when you decided to then move to work with Porto Rocha, you were working fully remotely.
I was actually in Mare Street.
You were in Mare Street. So,
Yeah.
So what was that experience like, going and working with a studio that was far bigger, but also working on a different time zone, and then having to try to understand and get to know a relatively close-knit but big team?
Yeah, I mean, it was also funny that I was working in the same room of Connor with the new job. Even not from the beginning. I moved for a bit in Camberwell, and then I came back to Mare Street, studio-wise. But yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Porto Rocha, they were so amazing that they didn't really ever force me to work not my hours. So I would work my normal hours, and at one point I would just clock off. That was agreement from the beginning. I don't think nobody from London could work American hours. That's just cruel. But I think that was a big problem for me at the beginning until I met them, really. Just because I am a very social person. As I said earlier, I'm a lot funnier in person. So I think I think for me it was a problem that I couldn't really connect with them at the beginning until I actually went there and meet them, and I was like, oh my god, you guys are great. Not that I didn't think they were great, but meeting in person is another completely different thing. I think you got to be a specific person. I know a lot of friends that are like okay with that, but to me it became very quickly very quickly apparent that I needed to be in local with them to create and really nourish that personal connection. So I think that to me became a problem later on. But yeah, I think if I would have been in New York, it would have been a lot very different right now. But I think it's important to be in person, especially when, I mean, our job is very much a lot about our ego, really, because you do your work and then you put it out there for somebody to judge it. And I think when you then build a relationship with those, with that people, with the people or person, depends if it's one or more, then I think it's a lot easier to just get the right feedback and stuff like that. But I just felt like I was a freelancer, really. Not that they made me feel like I was a freelancer at all, but I was still by myself pretty much all the time, which with me was not sitting right.
So it's kind of evident, like in your work, that there's experimentation is kind of like a key part in exploring and kind of learning new things. I think especially when it comes to motion, there's always something else to learn. There's always another thing that you can kind of like explore and add, and that next thing that you want to kind of like learn how to do. From your perspective, do you prefer to learn new processes from a kind of like self-initiated perspective, or do you kind of like to learn things in like an applied sense for a brief or for like a kind of like a client project?
So the question is if I prefer, okay, so, well, sometimes I don't have time to have some self-initiated project where I can learn new stuff. I think it's all about the approach that I have with motion that really helps me with that, because I never really storyboard things. I just go in the software and I fuck around. But because I've been doing it for so long, I've developed an eye for, maybe I was like, oh, maybe if I plug this into that and if I do this with that, maybe it would become something new, or like something I've not at least personally done before. Because obviously I don't believe anything is new. Pretty much everything is really transformed nowadays. It's just really how you make it look like. So in my case, I fuck around until I make something new that I'm happy with, or I basically mix things together. But I think while I was at uni, there was a lot more time for that, of just self-initiated project and like developing that. Where now is a bit more difficult, also because sometimes clients come and it's like, I want that, and you have to like, no, we cannot do that. We can do something similar, but we gotta like move it around a little just to, so it's different enough. So yeah, the answer to the question is the approach completely different? Is that I don't think about it before, I just do it, really, until, if it's good, I'm saying this always good. If it's good, it goes out and it might inspire some new clients. Like would happen that a lot of experiments of clients work I've done, I will post on Instagram, and then another client sees it and is like, oh, I like that. If it's not, it stays in the drawers.
I was just wondering, so you got that really great, principle or philosophy about always learning something from, project you're doing. I was just wondering, is there anything from studying ancient Greek and Latin that has kind of like come forward or stuck there in some weird way?
Yeah, that's, I mean, so what we would do, they would give us this thing called versioni in Italian. I don't know how it's called in English. I don't think there's a translation. There must be a translation, because people probably do it in here. But you basically have to like translate that from Greek or Latin, and we'd have this like really fat books. Like it would be like, I don't know, if maybe like, if you think about what's the actual, the book of all the typefaces, the one that looks like a basketball. It's like two of those together. It's like so big, and you have to like translate. And that really, like, I think that really, and I was really bad at it, by the way. Like I was bad, in from 0 to 10, I was like a 4. Like it's bad. But I think when you hit your head on it so many times, I think it teach me really resilience, resilience, as I say. And I think I do have that on After Effects nowadays, or like on Cinema 4D. Like when something doesn't happen the first time, you know, you gotta, I hit my head on it again until I can make it work. And if I cannot make it work, when you would translate, there will always be like multiple meaning of the word. There will be some crazy meanings, and they would change a lot. So like there's always like another way to get around it. And I think that's what's left to me, because, and I think that's also, by the way, that's what that school is trying to teach you. They're not trying to teach you Greek, ancient Greek and Latin. They know that languages, and you're never going to use them, you're never going to remember them. But it's the method of how you have to do it that is left within you. And I think that is so true. I mean, when I was a kid and they would come and tell me that, when I was in school, I would be like, oh, fuck that, this is so stupid. But now that I'm a grown up, it's like, there was a point to that. I was able to study, do like a creative studies, so like art studies, coming from never ever doing art before, because of that resilience that I got taught during those and then I love like anything Latin. I always try and name everything Latin. Like Memoria Machina is a Latin name. My coin is a Greek coin. So I do love that literature side of it. But I think the most important thing is the resilience that I got from it, really.
You got it tattooed on your arm, didn't you?
I do have it tattooed on my arm. That was before, and I started hating my tattoo at one point. I was like, okay, let's make it into my logo, so I cannot hate it.
Now you hate it and you're stuck with it. You haven't got a choice.
Forever. No, I don't really hate it, but it was my first tattoo, and I think for everybody who has a tattoo, at one point you probably hate your first tattoo. That's why I had to get other ones, so I don't hate it.
You just need your generative tattoo machine.
Should I do that? I think that you're here. I mean, I know people sell tokens for tattoos. Like they make tattoos online, and then you can to get it tattooed. You cannot anymore bring a screenshot. The tattoo artist, if it's a good tattoo artist, will ask you for a token. And you have to prove that you purchased the image. So it's like an NFT, pretty much.
Really?
You get tattooed on yourself.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's a thing. My partner did that, so that might be a business, to be honest. Maybe 2 times Elliott tattoos. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Hopefully, it gets sunny, and I will see you soon. All right.
See you.